Hey everybody, welcome to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. Avengers Endgame is not only the capstone to the Infinity Saga, but it's an incredibly satisfying ending to the downer cliffhanger of Infinity War. And now that the dust has settled back into the shape of our favorite heroes, we can look back at these films as two halves of a whole. In hindsight, Infinity War obviously foreshadowed Endgame's use of time travel, and none of us noticed. But before we go on, I gotta tell you, big spoilers for Infinity War, Endgame, and all the Marvel movies are just ahead. Thanos is the physical threat to the Avengers, but their metaphorical opponent is time itself. After Bruce Banner lands in the Sanctum Sanctorum, he warns, "Thanos is coming." And this immediately places a ticking clock on the movie. It places time at a premium.
Thanos is coming, it doesn't matter who you're talking to or not.
Ticking clocks are an often used screenwriting device. They can be the birth of a child, or waiting for a computer hack to finish, or they're usually a literal ticking clock. But in Infinity War, the motif of running out of time is alluded to and verbally repeated throughout the movie. The circular Q ships that carry the Black Order to Earth rotate like spinning clocks. Now I know that's not necessarily intentional. They could just be cool-looking giant space donuts. But consider that they're not adapted from any ships in the comic book. They could have been designed to look like anything. Yet, the filmmakers chose circle ships that are made of interlocking gears that are usually shown rotating in a clockwise direction. Circles and circular machines appear again and again in the film. While Thor is racing against time to create Stormbreaker, he reignites Nidavellir by restarting what looks like a broken clock. In Wakanda, the Vision lays on a circular operating table, and later, Shuri, racing against time, is working above a circular platform. When Corvus Glaive attacks, the table is split in two, showing that time is up. Now, when Wong lists the Infinity Stones, the Time Stone is given special significance.
Mind and time.
And the perception of time is also alluded to by Drax.
But my movement was so slow that it's imperceptible.
The Marvel Studios logo in the beginning is changed to a 10, marking the passage of time for the studio. Now again, these could be coincidences, but the word time is also constantly woven throughout the dialogue, far more times than your average MCU movie.
There's no time for a thing.
Time to be the captain.
It'll take time, brother.
And all the time.
I'm gonna ask you this one time.
All right, let me ask you this one time.
Except maybe Doctor Strange.
Find me something worth my time.
We don't get to choose our time.
Time is what enslaves us. Time is an insult.
But even besides literally saying time, units of time are often repeated as well.
70 years ago, you laid down your life to save how many millions of people?
You know, I'm 1,500 years old.
Thor adding the detail that he's 1,500 years old is pretty superfluous. But this dialogue reminds us that we're watching a longer timeline, and all of these characters figure into it in different ways. Thor is an ancient god who believes that Thanos' murder is inevitable.
Thanos is just the latest in a long line of bastards, and he'll be the latest to feel my vengeance. Fate wills it so.
Mentioning their past reminds us that time is finite, and time is the very thing that they're fighting against. The Vision and Wanda are the characters most limited by time. Like a lot of couples in long-distance relationships, they're trying to figure out how to stay together for as long as possible.
What if this time I didn't go back?
Wanda even acknowledges this directly.
I'm sorry. We just wanted time.
But their relationship is on a ticking clock as soon as the Black Order arrives. The Vision knows that his death, like the passage of time, is inevitable.
We are out of time.
After Vision's heroic sacrifice, Thanos even rubs salt in the wound by proclaiming that he is the master of time, and also the master of death.
But now is no time to mourn. Now is no time at all.
Now, all of this might sound like a coincidence, I get it. You may think we're crazy or reading too much into this, but think about how many years ahead of time the MCU foreshadows their films. Small details, like a blip on a background map in Iron Man 2 will later pay off in an entire movie, Black Panther. Infinity War and Endgame were written and produced simultaneously, so the filmmakers naturally established themes in the first film that would pay off in the second. So we have to assume that all of this foreshadowing was intentional to create a cohesive theme that runs between both films. For instance, Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to go forward in time and see the millions of different potential outcomes, a way to predict and control time. But this isn't truly control. It's more like Strange has looked at the betting odds on a horse race, meaning that you can study the horses, the track, the jockeys, the weather, the mud on the ground, every aspect of the race. But in the end, you can only predict the result. And predicting alone isn't enough to give Doctor Strange mastery over time. But Strange leaping into the future does foreshadow that the Avengers will eventually learn to manipulate the past.
How many did we win?
One.
So why do the heroes need to control time? Why is time the enemy? Because death is the byproduct of time. The longer we live, the more likely we are to die. That's why we work out on treadmills, to try and outrun the Grim Reaper.
I'm gonna get a Bowflex. I'm gonna commit.
The Infinity War poster is shaped like a clock, with Thanos sitting at midnight. That's because Thanos is the end. He is death. His name even comes from the Greek Thanatos, which means death. In Endgame, he says several times, "I am inevitable," metaphorically because the passage of time and death are both inevitable. So, to conquer death, the Avengers have to transcend time. To do this, they collect Infinity Stones. The stones control and stabilize the timeline, but they also represent the infinite, the endless, an existence unconstrained by death or time. When Tony Stark creates the model for time travel, it looks like a Mobius strip, similar to the symbol for infinity. This is a way to literally convey that the Avengers have mastered time and can reverse death. The last time Thanos says, "I am inevitable," Tony answers by saying,
I am Iron Man.
and we all remember that moment when Tony threw his secret identity out the window. But those words also represent Stark's legacy. Remember, before being called Iron Man, Tony had another nickname.
The Merchant of Death.
Like Thanos, Tony was an agent of death.
We're a weapons manufacturer.
I don't want a body count to be
That's what we do.
He becomes Iron Man because he's concerned about his legacy. So what is legacy? It's seeds in a garden you never get to see. Legacy lives beyond us, into the future and beyond. Legacy is people honoring your name long after you've left the world. By sacrificing his life, Tony finally managed to conquer death and time. So what do you guys think? Was this genius foreshadowing, or are we reaching a little bit too much? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're new here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.